All right, in this lecture, I'm going to show you Fluent API in action. So in case you want to follow along with me, I've got this project in the supplementary materials of this lecture. So you can pause the video, download the source code, and continue along with me. All right, so back in this project, I have already enabled migrations, as you can tell from this migrations folder here. The first thing I want to do is to create an initial migration and create the first database. So we open up Package Manager console, add migration, initial model. Okay, let's take a quick look here. So look at the courses table. We'll have name and description columns, and they are going to be nullable because we don't have nullable set to false in the call to the string method. And they don't have a length. So their type is going to be nvarchar of max. Also note this author underline ID column here. So this is going to be the foreign key. And we want to get rid of this underline. And look at this tag courses table here. As I said before, this is the intermediary table, and we'll be renaming this to course tags. So let's go ahead, apply some configuration, and then recreate this migration. So we go to Pluto context, our DB context. We need to override on model creating method. So override on model creating. So here we get model builder. We use model builder. We call the editing method to get a reference to the course class. And now we can configure name and description properties. So I'm going to call the property method. Here we use a lambda expression. So course.name. I want to make it required. Is required. And set the length on it. Has max length 255. So note this chain of method calls. That's why we call this approach Fluent API. It's like a fluent language. We chain method calls and tell a story. Now we can duplicate this code, and this time apply it on description property. But I'm going to set a different length. Let's say 2000 characters. Now I'm going to override the name of author underline ID column, which is the foreign key column. So to do that, we need to configure the relationship between courses and authors. As I said before, it doesn't matter which end of the relationship you start. So I'm going to start from course because all my configuration here is around course. So model builder dot entity of course. Now each course has one author, right? So we're going to call has required method. Has required. Now we use a lambda expression. Course dot author. So this is the navigation property. So each course has one author, and each author has many courses. So we're going to call with many. Now with many, so each author has many courses. Now to configure the foreign key, has foreign key. So course goes to course author ID. We don't have this property yet, so I'm going to create it now. We go to the course class. So this is the author navigation property. We're going to create a foreign key property. So integer author ID. Now back to DB context. That's it. Now before going any further, I would like to see the impact of this configuration on my migration. So we go back to Package Manager console and recreate the initial model migration. So I use the up cursor to bring up the last command. And because we already have initial model migration, we'll have to use the force switch to overwrite it. So this file has been modified outside of the editor. Yes, reload it. Let's go back here and look at the courses table. Look, now both name and description columns have nullable set to false, and they both have a maximum length. That's exactly what I wanted to achieve. Also, we no longer have author underline ID. This column is called author ID. And if you look here, this author ID is the foreign key to authors table. And by default, cascade delete is turned on. If you want to turn it off, you need to apply it as part of the relationship configuration. With the current configuration, if we delete an author, all his or her courses is going to be deleted. And this is not a good behavior in a real-world application. If we have an author, and that author has at least one existing course, we shouldn't be able to delete that author. So I want to turn off cascade delete. So go back to our Fluent API configuration in our DB context. So as part of the configuration, we can call will cascade on delete and set false. As simple as that. Now we need to recreate the migration. Back to Package Manager console. Remember the last command. Reload the file. Okay, let's go to the migration. Look, we no longer have cascade delete set to true here. Now let's apply another configuration. I want to change this tag courses to course tags. So we need to configure the many-to-many relationship between tags and courses. So back here, again, model builder, .entity. Again, we can start from course or from tag. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go with course. Has many. We supply a lambda expression. C goes to c.tags. And now the reverse of the relationship. So with many, T goes to t.courses. So each tag has many courses. And finally, to set the name of the table, we call the map method. So this map method takes an action. In case you are not familiar with actions, they are delegates. In my C# Advanced course, I go over delegates and actions in detail. But in case you're not familiar with that, I'll give you a brief background here. This action, which is a generic type, takes a parameter of type many-to-many association mapping configuration. It's a very long name, but what's happening here is, here we need to supply a pointer to a method that takes this object as a parameter. So you can create a method that is void and takes that parameter, or you can use a lambda expression. Again, the explanation of this is beyond the scope of this course. If you're struggling with actions and delegates, it's best to watch my C# Advanced course. Now here, I supply a lambda expression. So M is my mapping object, and that has a method called toTable. So I'm going to call this course tags. Now let's recreate our migration. Reload the file. Back to the migration. There you go. Now it's renamed to course tags. Okay, now to make things a little bit more complicated, I would like to add a new class in my model called cover. So each course has one cover, and each cover belongs to one course. So a one-to-one relationship. So back here, add a new class. I'm going to call this cover. Make it public. Now each entity needs to have a key or a primary key. Otherwise, if you want to create a migration, you're going to get an error. So I'm going to call this ID. Now each cover should be associated with a course. So I add a navigation property here, course. And now I'm going to create a relationship from course to cover. So we go to the course class and add a property here, cover. Okay, so here is a one-to-one relationship. Now, if I go ahead and try to create a migration, I'm going to get an error. And I want to show you the error, and then I will tell you how to fix it. So back to Package Manager console, recreate the migration. There you go. So read the error. Unable to determine the principal end of an association between the types cover and course. So basically the issue we have here is we have a one-to-one relationship between course and cover, but the entity framework does not know which type is the parent. And this is crucial because when you add records to the database, the parent record should be created first before we can create the child record. So we go back to our configuration in Pluto context. Again, another configuration. Model builder, that entity of course. So we're going to use has required method because a course has only one cover. So C goes to cover. Now the reverse. With required, because each cover has a course as well. Now which one should we use? With required dependent or principal? Look, we're configuring the relationship from cover towards course. So course is the end of the relationship. Now, is the course the parent or the child? It's the parent, it's the principal, because we cannot have a cover without a course. So we're going to use with required principal. And now we specify the navigation property. So cover.course. Let's recreate the migration. Beautiful. Reload the file. Let's take a look at the migration here. So look, now we have a new table called covers, which has only one column, ID. That's a primary key, and that's actually a foreign key to the courses table. So the courses table is the parent table, and cover is the child table. And that brings us to the end of this demo. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.